A slow satisfaction. This goes back over 15 years. I worked as a credit manager for a well-known UK directory inquiries company. Think about running men, the company was a walking disaster. High staff turnover. Poor sales practices and burning through cash constantly. All the usual crap. The sales team used to forge signatures. Commission was paid up front and they often left before being discovered anyway. I ran a collections and administration team. We kept the cash coming in. For those that don't know, on top of the money made from dialing the premium number directory inquiries, companies also sold the top few slots in each category to businesses. For example, locksmiths were very popular, so a locksmith in London would pay £200,000 a year for one of the paid slots. If you got locked out of your car/house, you often only had your phone, so would want a locksmith, so if you needed a locksmith, calling directory inquiries meant you would be given one of the paid slots 7 out of 10 times. Another popular and expensive slot was massage parlors, horny drunk men falling out of pubs with only their phone anyway. Think of a category and they sold it, and for a lot of money. Turnover for the slots was over £60 million per year. However, we were owned by a US company who didn't really understand the UK and often made crazy decisions, and often last minute. Example being a New York trip I had planned and booked months in advance had to be cancelled because the global CFO decided the day before I flew he needed to fly to the UK and I was required in the meeting. Luckily they offered to pay for everything, so I didn't lose out. I actually managed to cancel and get a refund on some things, so actually ended up, the meeting lasted 80 minutes and my input less than 10 minutes. Anyway, enough background. The company, in the face of the looming shadow of mobile internet, decided to make redundancies. I was selected as possible candidate. No biggie. That's life, so I started hunting around just in case. 1 month later I find out that I'm actually getting made redundant, but they offer a pretty generous redundancy payment so I can stay on until a certain date so they can smooth transition to the CFO. Independently, I also find a great new credit management job with more money for a much more stable company. My mistake was mentioning this. I should mention at this point that the first round of redundancies meant my financial controller leaves and I'm managed directly by the CFO. He is supposed to be spending time with me to understand some of the necessary tasks I do, which includes amongst others the creation and processing of the direct debit schedule every month. This is how our slot customers pay, and it's a lot of money. Obviously he doesn't make any time, despite the fact reminded him multiple times right up my last day. He never makes time. However, he had heard about my new role, and the day before my last day I'm pulled into a HR meeting to be told they've decided I'm too important to let go and I'm really needed. My redundancy is cancelled when they know full well I've committed to a new role, and they get to not pay my redundancy payment. I take it on the chin and I say my goodbyes and move on to my new role. 2 weeks later I'm in a board meeting in my new role, sitting with my new CEO/MD, CFO/FD, when one of the secretaries comes in and pulls me out. It's my former CFO, who's called the main number of my new company and put through an urgent request to speak to me. I'm dumbfounded. He explains that the direct debit schedule has failed and he doesn't know why. Over £5 million of direct debits haven't come in and he's panicking. He asks me whether I can help and fix it. Now? Leave my new company. Come back as a favor for 1 day and sort it out? I calmly and carefully explain I no longer work for him or the company and I'm too busy with my new role. I go on to say that I would have had more time for outside activities had my redundancy payment been honored. It was one of the greatest moments of my life, and I look back with pride that I was calm and collected. I never lost my temper. The CFO was dismissed a few weeks later, and whilst I'm sure the issue was only a small blip, the company was essentially done and dusted a year or so later. They pivoted to loans and other things without success and I moved on.